First time I ever got a laugh from an audience was in 7th grade English. It was the 10-minute silent reading point in the middle of class when the timing just hit me perfectly to fart. And the class erupted in laughter. Probably the best thing they'd ever heard in their life. And then the teacher, noticing that if he were to go against me, that he would lose the class, decided to play along, and he said, "I'll give that a 7 out of 10. And then the class again erupted into laughter. And that's when I realized that farts are funny. They're always going to be funny. As far as I'm concerned, a fart's one of the funniest things. It's the best fart joke. Just a straight fart. And I'm not proud of what I've done. I'm a dad now. Don't judge me. 2008, I was in Las Vegas, Nevada for 7 days performing at Planet Hollywood. And my friend Ben Kronberg, who's a very funny stand-up comedian, was performing with me. And if you've ever been in Vegas for longer than 3 days, you know that it's a suicide mission. There should be a limit, like 3 days, we gotta kick you out. It's not gonna be good for us, it's not gonna be good for you. But I stuck it out, 7 days, and on the 6th day of my 7-day run, we had 2 shows. And the first show went great. In fact, a couple people from Hollywood, some industry was out there gambling. They came to the show. Afterwards, we smoked some pot, and they said, "Hey, listen, we know you've got another show, but after your next show, there's gonna be a party at the club at the top of Planet Hollywood." I think it was called Privé at the time. I said, "Go up there and just say, Table 60, Isaiah." They weren't Isaiah, that was just a name of a guy, and they said, they'll let you right in. Table 60, Isaiah. They were like, the guy practically owns the place. I was like, all right, fine, yeah. So we do the next show, and after the show, it's another standing ovation. Get sick of them, to be honest, after a while, but. After the show, a girl walked up to me, and she had a magazine that was rolled up as tight as it could be. And she handed me the magazine, and she said, "This is from Craig." And he's a comedian that had been there the night before, and apparently he wanted to give me something. And as she walked away, I unrolled the magazine, and inside this magazine was cocaine, Percocets, prescription pain pills, a lot of mushrooms, and marijuana. So apparently Craig had leftover drugs and gave it to somebody and said to surprise me with it. So I looked at all the drugs, and out of all of these drugs, I'd done one of them. And I thought, you know what? Since I've never done mushrooms, a lot of people decide to do mushrooms for the first time in the woods with some good friends or maybe at a great fish concert. I thought, why don't I do it in the most nightmarish landscape possible? Las Vegas. So I just eat some mushrooms. And then I'm like, well, I've never had mushrooms before. I might as well throw a couple Percocet on top of it. And so there I was, feeling like, for the first time, like I was living at 100%. And I looked at Ben and I said, "Isaiah, table 60? And he said, "Fuck yeah." And we went up to Privé and we got Isaiah table 60 and we had some woman escorting us up through whatever, and the walls are vibrating because of the mushrooms. But my feet were vibrating. I think that was the Percocet. So it just kind of felt like we were all in sync. And there was Isaiah at table 60, and you couldn't miss Isaiah. He had the body of George Costanza with fashion sense. A certain type of fashion sense. His hair was slicked back. He was like an Italian guy, and he was wearing a silk yellow shirt with almost matching pants. He had his name, like his initials, they were stitched onto his pocket. And he had bottle service at the table, and he was shaking drinks up and serving everybody. He was the king of the party. He practically owns the place, is what I was heard. It's what I was heard. And so I sit down and I get introduced by these industry people like, "Here's Nick, he's the comedian that's here for the weekend." And Isaiah immediately perked up. He was excited to take care of me. "We got the comedian here. What do you want? What do you want? You want a drink?" And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't think I should add that. Like, I don't think I should be adding things at this point. So I was like, "No, I'm good. Thanks, Isaiah." Oh, the disappointment just sunk into him. The look on his face was like, "That's not okay. I want to serve you something." And he goes, "Well, then what do you want?" And I'm looking around this club, and people are dancing, and there's women dancing on tables. And it's not like one girl's like, "Should I do it? Yeah, let's do it." No, they're paid to dance on these tables. It's like these models that fly into Vegas on Southwest Airlines. You can see them every week if you want. that come in and do this, and they're dancing on these tables, and I just looked at a girl from across the room, and I go, Isaiah, her. And he was like, all right, and he did some hand motion, and she was off that table in seconds, and she walked over, and she said, what do you want? And he goes, he wants you. And this is a weird moment where you're like, well, yeah, who wouldn't? Oh, my wife wouldn't. My wife definitely wouldn't want me to have her. So I was like, oh, I was actually joking. Ben, and I gave her to Ben, and she danced on Ben for a song. And then Isaiah gave her 2 $100 bills, and she went back to her table. And Isaiah was just so disappointed in me. I know that he wanted to please me in some way, so I was waiting for the opportunity where Isaiah finally had something for me. And then it happened. One of the guys from Los Angeles that had brought us up to the table had rolled a joint, and that was going to be their gift for Isaiah for bringing us up there that night. Because weed's actually kind of hard to find in Las Vegas. I'll tell you more about that later. So the guy took the joint, and from across the table in a very loud room goes, after hours, and he hands the joint to Isaiah. Isaiah looks at the joint and then looks at me and says, huh? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And so he lit this joint up in a very secretive way, handed it to me, and now I was just like, and everyone's like, no, you gotta, and I'm like, well, it's Isaiah. He practically owns the place, but yeah, we'll hide it. So it's getting passed around the table. People are like hiding it, going under the leg and like keeping it down. And it came around 2 times and hit me as the last person, my 3rd turn with the joint. And I took the last hit and I went to go put it down by my feet. And in that moment, I feel a hand on my shoulder. And I turn around and it's a guy with an earpiece in and a polo shirt. He's a security guard. And then I look around at the table and people are scattering. Isaiah is jumping over this fucking booth. Like, I don't even know what he's doing. He's just, people are clearing out, and not me, and not Ben, and not this agent that was there from Los Angeles. We're all just stuck at the table, and now we're surrounded by 10 security guards, all in polo shirts with the earpieces. And they don't just surround us like there's like a couple areas where we might be able to jump through. It's like they've barricaded us with their arms, and their move was this. It wasn't grabbing us. It was just like a group walk. And they just slowly group walked us, and we're just in the middle of a circle, and I'm like, you know, you think like a little dance circle or what? But it feels weird, and they pull us out, and in this kind of big hallway, there's more security guards. These ones have suit jackets on, same earpieces. Things are starting to change. Temperature's changed a lot in the room. I have all of my drugs in this pocket. All of them. In my jacket pocket right here, I have my own weed. And the first thing that they notice is that I look a little more eccentric than the 2 other people. So they separate all of us, and then everything's focused on me. And they're like, what drugs do you have? Tell us right now. And in my mind, I was like, let's just give them one at a time and see if they keep pushing. So I pulled the weed out of my pocket, and I'm like, I've got this. And so now he's looking at this device. It's like this wooden thing with a twist top, and there's this metal bat that springs out because there's a spring in there, and it like jumps out. And the guy's like, what is this? And so I'm starting to explain. I'm like, well, you take that thing and you put it in, and it gets some weed out, and then you smoke it. And he's like turning it upside down, and like there was no weed. It's just like some specks fall out. I'm like, oh, God. And he goes, all right, all right. And in that moment, I realized, oh my God, I can't get arrested. I'm actually performing on The Tonight Show 4 days from there. Like, I had just shot a pilot, a television show for NBC the week before. I cannot get arrested for all of these drugs in Las Vegas right now. This is the biggest moment of my life, and I'm a fuck up, and I hope, oh my God, everyone's gonna hate me and my family, and like, it's all kind of hitting me. And when you're kind of high on stuff and you start to take that negative turn, it really goes bad. And the one nice thing was a Percocet that was just really warming my body. So I'm standing there, and right in that moment, I'm like, you can't arrest me, I'm the comedian. I'm the comedian performing here at Planet Hollywood. And that was the moment that the agent who was in there, even though he's not my agent, steps up and he goes, you can't arrest him. If you do, then I will never book another comedian in this casino again. And this seemed to affect something a little bit for a moment. And they're like, well, the cops are already on their way, so we're just gonna take you guys down to the holding room. So now they take us to an elevator, and we're stuck in this elevator, and we're going down, and the vibes are bad. And I'm like, it's just weed, it's not a big deal. And he goes, this is Nevada, son. Having marijuana is just as bad as having cocaine. And in my mind, I was like, what if you have both? No. We get down to the basement of the casino. They walk us to this room and they sit us down. And now I'm sitting in this chair, and they take our IDs. They tell us the cops are on their way. And one of them puts on some rubber gloves. And he points to Ben, and he says, "You're first, stand up." And I swear to God, Ben jumped up like he'd won the fucking lottery. Like the most sarcastic, like, "Woo, yeah, it's me." And the guys are just like, "Oh, this is..." And so Ben gets on the wall, and he starts like, I mean, I think we were all wondering what the wall felt like, you know, initially. And Ben was just kind of doing initial checkout, like, yeah, it's definitely wall-like. And the guy goes, "Hey, comedian, don't make this funny. This isn't a joke." And Ben says, "How many movies have I seen this scene in? How can I not make this funny?" And then in that moment, Ben farted. Out loud. It rumbled through the room, through the basement of this casino, and everybody erupted in laughter. And in that moment, on that chair, I took my jacket and I took all the drugs in my pant pocket while people were laughing hysterically, and put all of the drugs in my jacket pocket and took my jacket off and rested it on my chair and just sat there. They finished searching him. They said, "You're next." I stood up. They searched me, found nothing, searched the agent, put my jacket back on in the middle of all of that while nobody was looking, and they gave us back our IDs, and they said, "All right, we're not going to have you guys arrested." And I knew it was because they couldn't find the joint, because I later found that it was still stuck to the bottom of my shoe, which was confusing the fuck out of them, because I was smelling it too, and I was just like, you guys missed one area to search, I'll tell you that right now. They let us out on a loading dock, and there's some workers smoking, and I walked up and just was really feeling the ground that was moving. And Ben saved my life with a fart. Now, like I said earlier, I always knew that farts would be funny every time, which proved itself down in that room. But I never knew one would save my life. Thank you guys very much.